organization started about 5 years ago when I was approached by Chad Hagle and Pat Orasco and David Knowles and David Butler and a few others. And I think they picked on me because I was probably asleep when they were talking or something. This organization does a lot of very good work, and a lot of people contribute to that. I've been fortunate to be able to take the credit, but frankly, very little of this is my effort. We have a very strong board of directors who works hard, a board of governors who are sort of like me that just take the credit, the Stanford Real Estate Council, which is our lead group, and our regional directors, and most importantly, our staff. So if all those people would stand up for one moment, that is the board of directors, the board of governors, the SREC. Come on, stand up so everybody can see you. Regional directors and the staff. Chad Hagle, who is our president and one of the original organizers, will come up and tell you a little bit about what's going on with SPIRE today.
Ladies and gentlemen, members of the SREC, distinguished guests, welcome to the annual Stanford Real Estate Hall of Fame induction banquet presented by SPIRE. I'm very, very pleased to be back here again in the California Club here this evening for another year of this wonderful event. Very quickly, I wanted to thank and recognize again Sam Freshman and Fred Allen, who are our two esteemed Hall of Fame dinner co-chairs. I do want to take a couple of moments just to also recognize some of our distinguished guests who are here with us this evening. We're very thankful to all of Tad Toby's extended family for being here this evening in his stead. We are also extraordinarily honored to have Governor Pete Wilson and his wife Gail here this evening. Governor Wilson will be accepting the award tonight on behalf of Tad Toby. We're very, very grateful to have Bob Lowe and his wife Beth in attendance with us this evening. Bob is obviously our other honoree for the evening, and as well as the rest of the Lowe family. So thank you all for attending. And we are building a bit of a legacy here and a community of luminaries within the Stanford Real Estate Hall of Fame. I'm very honored to have been just a small part of making that happen and building this organization and this honor. We have with us here tonight as distinguished guests as well Buzz McCoy and his wife Barbara. Buzz was one of our honorees last year. Welcome back. As well as Bill Tooley and his wife Reva. Thank you very much for coming back. Welcome. And we also welcome Kathy Cole, who is joining us here this evening, representing Don, who was one of our first class of Hall of Fame inductees. And yet every time that I see Kathy, I feel like we got it wrong, because I think she should have been inducted into the Hall of Fame. So Kathy, welcome. Thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure. As I said, my name is Chad Hagle. I'm the president of SPIRE and one of the original founding board members. For those of you who don't know me, you may not know that one of my great passions and one of the driving forces in my life is a love of and support of education. One of the other honors that I have is to sit as a member of the Board of Trustees for St. John's Episcopal School in Rancho Santa Margarita. And I had the opportunity last week to attend an induction of a different kind. In the Episcopal education tradition, the induction of a new headmaster for a school is referred to as an investiture. At the investiture last week, I heard from the vicar of St. John's, who's Father John Taylor. And I wanted to share something that he shared with me last week that was a bit of an inspiration for my discussion with you this evening. Father Taylor, before coming to St. John's Episcopal School, was a former member of the staff for President Richard Nixon, and then also served as the director of his presidential library. I know that it's not popular or encouraged necessarily to invoke Richard Nixon's name in a speech in front of a large group of people, but I'm not running for office, so I think I have the freedom to do that. And if I were going to run for office, I've been a developer for 15 years, and I'm the son of a developer, so it's probably too late for me. But what Father Taylor shared last week that was really inspiring to me is he said that the highest honor that could be bestowed upon anyone in the Richard Nixon camp was the label of being one of us. One of us. Now, within the Richard Nixon camp, being one of us carried a few very specific distinguishing characteristics. One is you had to be a moderate conservative. You couldn't have any one issue that was particularly a lightning rod for you. You had to sort of blend in with the crowd. Two is you had to accept Richard Nixon for all of his intricacies and idiosyncrasies. And three, and probably most importantly, you had to be someone that you'd want to have a drink with. Very important criteria. But to me, what this phrase, this concept, one of us, what that means is being part of a community. And here tonight, we are honoring two men who, and their legacies, who have led lives and have clearly defined a legacy as being part of one or more important communities. We have Bob Lowe, who is not only an industry leader, but he's a consummate Angelino and a fixture in the Southern California community. We're also honoring Tad Toby, who is not only a giant within the industry, but is also a pillar of the Jewish community. So I started thinking about this phrase, one of us, one of us, one of us. And I thought to myself, what does it mean to be one of them? What does it mean to be a member of the Stanford Real Estate Hall of Fame? What are our criteria? What do we look for as those key defining characteristics? And I'm just sharing my own personal perspective, but here are the 3 points as I see it. One is they need to be a luminary in the field of real estate, a true pioneer of the industry. And I think every one of our honorees, including this year's honorees, represent that trait. Secondly, they have to be passionate about Stanford, dedicated to the university and supporting its ideals. And again, without fail, I believe every one of our inductees, including tonight's, have established themselves as pillars of the Stanford community as well. And third, and most importantly, again, they have to be someone you want to have a drink with. The Nixon camp got that one right. I have had the opportunity over the years to engage and interact with each of our Hall of Fame inductees, our honorees, their families, and I can tell you the whole bunch is a group that I'd want to have a drink with. I have learned so much, and I've been so inspired by all of our inductees. It has been a very, very meaningful experience for me personally, just as it has been an honor for our organization. So that got me thinking about our organization. What does it mean to be one of us? What does it mean to be a SPIRE member? What do we stand for? And it comes back for us, again, to 3 points. In this case, it's the 3 pillars of our organization. And I'll walk you through those really quickly so you understand who we are and what we stand for. Pillar 1, alumni professional networking. This doesn't just mean trying to drum up business, getting together with a group of your cronies over a drink. It's really a sense of coming together in a spirit of collaboration. It is a certain optimism driven by our limitless capacity for innovation. It is a commitment to upholding the highest standards and sharing that drive for excellence. The second pillar of our organization, student outreach. To be a SPIRE member, you must share in a commitment to creating opportunity and understanding that the very process of creating opportunity is its own reward. You have to have respect for the truly unique and wonderful nature of that rare relationship in our culture between mentor and mentee. And you have to have a willingness to give back and engage. All of these things are represented in our activities back at Stanford University on the farm. Our campus speaker series, the career panels that we conduct for students who may or may not know that they desire a career in the real estate industry, and our recently launched Mentor-Mentee program, which was a phenomenal success this summer. The third pillar of SPIRE, educational program development. As I said, I am a huge proponent of education. And education, I believe, is the most valuable gift that can be given to an individual or to a group. And Stanford prides itself on not only being an educational institution, but along with education comes research. And so part of being a SPIRE member is an understanding that innovation across disciplines is the key to solving the big problems of the world. And SPIRE is very, very proud to be a part of what is a phenomenal initiative at Stanford University, which is the growth, development, the very genesis of sustainable urban systems as a new research and education program at the university. So, as we go through the course of this evening, I hope you will all join with me in this focus upon our community, our people, the group of us here in this room tonight, and what it means to be one of us. I know that I am certainly proud to be one of you and to be sitting here in the audience this evening, enjoying the rest of the program and enjoying these two wonderful men that we're honoring tonight. Thank you very much. Part of our induction every year, and it's something that I think is quite special, is the presentation of a video tribute to each of our honorees. And I want to take a moment before you see the wonderful work product of these two amazing women to acknowledge, recognize, and thank them for being here this evening and for the hard work they put into the videos. And that's Susan Niesloss and Kristen Finkel, who are the producer and editor of the videos that you will see this evening. So Susan and Kristen, thank you. And without any further ado, I will invite you all to enjoy this tribute video to give us all a greater snapshot into the life and the legacy of Tad Toby. Thank you.
Tad is a problem solver. He's constructive. He's always trying to see how to make something better.
He really loves people, and he wants to do whatever he possibly can to help everybody.
Have a good time.
A very unassuming guy. I think the first impression I had of him was I wanted to go out and buy him some clothes because Tad was in jeans and you wouldn't find him in Neiman Marcus shopping there.
A thoughtful, probing,
almost relentless study of any opportunity and process, and an extraordinary good taste in people.
He's a remarkable person, a slightly too conservative for me, but I think everyone who knows him understands.
Tad can see other viewpoints, but not for terribly long. He is an articulate conservative and impatient with what he thinks is destructive political correctness.
I love talking to Tad about his own personal history, which is a great American success story, pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. And, it's clear everything he is and everything he does today comes directly out of that.
I was born in Krakow, Poland, which was the ancient capital city. The family moved to Warsaw. My mother and father were on a business trip in the United States. When they got to New York and kind of had a chance to think about what was going on in Europe at that time, I think they got a sense about it that maybe the people that were living in Poland and Eastern Europe probably didn't get. I made a real significant effort really to subsume my early childhood and become, an all-American kid. I mean, I fell in love with the United States of America. I didn't want to be thought of as a refugee. My father asked me when I was about 17 about college. He said, "You thought about college?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to UCLA." He says, "You're going to Stanford?" And I said, "Yes, sir," because that's the way it was. I was in a European authoritarian household. I think what Stanford does is they really work very hard at making a complete person. There's so many things in life that are reflexive, and a lot of those things that I think about or try to think about really probably came to me from my Stanford days.
He had this large piece of land in Sacramento that he was telling me about in 2006. And as the breakfast evolved, he said to me, "Boy, this is getting a little bit pricey. Maybe I ought to sell the whole thing." I, of course, thought nothing of it. But he did tell me that he sold it a couple months later, and that was 6 months before the housing market crashed. Pretty awesome timing. Fast forward 2 years to another breakfast. He's telling me the same piece of land is being sold for 20 cents on the dollar, and he thinks he ought to buy it back. Sure enough, he does. He called the bottom. Pretty good round trip on one large property.
I think my first real entree into the big time in terms of being able to deal at levels that I'd never really experienced before was when Joe and Stephanie Corrett engaged me to essentially manage their wealth. Proudest or most significant moment was actually a apartment complex, a large complex that I acquired with Joe and Steffi Corrett. The foundation had about an 80% interest in that property. We just sold the 80% interest recently for approximately $100 million. The cost of that 80% interest in 1971 in cash was approximately $1.5 million.
He's very deliberate. He likes to manage all his own properties. The curb appeal and the maintenance is really tight. He plays for the long game.
My first really major philanthropic gift anywhere was here at Stanford when I contributed a significant amount of money to the purchase of the Barone collection of Judaica from Salo Baron, who was the father of Jewish studies at Columbia University.
I remember he got the Scopus Award many years ago, which is given by the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, and that's the highest honor in Jewish philanthropy.
I would say that my philanthropy has been driven by, first of all, an ever-increasing sense of Jewish awareness. Certainly that drove my major involvement in Poland and Israel, and in the local Jewish world.
He has helped me in some of my campaigns and others from the Catholic faith. When I was one of the campaign leaders for an endowment campaign at Santa Clara University, he and the Corrett Foundation made a 7-figure gift to Santa Clara University.
He's very passionate about education. He is someone who believes that we should do everything possible for kids who otherwise might not achieve their full potential.
If he gave $10 to a poor person on the street corner, he'd first ask him what he was going to do with the money. He wanted to know where it was going and how it would be spent, and his giving has always been goal-oriented.
He came over to breakfast at my house on campus. Just the two of us there. And I made him scrambled eggs. He loved them. And he keeps talking about my scrambled eggs. Wants to come back and have another invitation. And I said, look, I taught you how to do it. Are you so dumb you can't learn how to keep and cook scrambled eggs?
My daughter Anne was at a dinner party, and she happened to be seated next to Tad. And she said to him, "You look a lot like my dad." And so she happened to be at the time founder of, and still is, founder of 23andMe. It's a genetics company. So she sent him a kit. He was related. And he was related to her, but more importantly, of course for me, he was related to me. We were all shocked.
So I was selling an asset once, and he wanted to buy it. And he's a tough negotiator. So we were within, I mean, I'm not gonna say $1, but it had to be close to $1. And we fought like cats and dogs. So we finally said, we're so close, let's get this together. And we did, we made the transaction, and we've been laughing about that ever since.
You really can't put your finger on a single legacy, because the thing about Tad is he's had such a big imprint. I mean, at Stanford, so many things. It's not just seeing the Toby Corrett signs in different places, but knowing what's behind them, whether it's Hoover or Hillel or the tennis courts or the law school. He's been a contributor to everything.
There's no question that building the museum in Warsaw has to be his single most remarkable achievement because of the time and energy and effort and his commitment to really highlighting the contribution of the Polish Jews through the 1,000 years of history in Poland.
It's essentially become my life's work here in the last decade or so. Its meaning, I think, it goes beyond its meaning to me. I think that this has great meaning to the Jewish people as a whole.
I think he would like to be remembered as he will be, as he deserves to be, as a man of passion for good deals and for good causes.
He has the legacy of support for worthwhile ideas. He has the legacy of the kind of philanthropist who doesn't simply give resources, but if it's worth giving resources, it's worth spending some personal time.
To be able to escape a very bad situation that probably would have meant certain death for me, and to integrate myself into the American culture seamlessly and be involved in a nation and a country that has offered so many opportunities to me. So I guess all the components of that would be a definition of pride. I'm immensely satisfied.
I'm Andy Walburger, Executive Director of SPIRE, and we are honored this evening to have Governor Pete Wilson here with us to receive this award on behalf of Tad Toby. Tad is in Poland, opening the Museum of History of Polish Jews, which happened yesterday. Governor Wilson dedicated more than 30 years of public service as Governor of California, U.S. Senator, Mayor of San Diego, and California State Assemblyman. You may recall that the governor served from 1991 to 1999 and led California from the depths of the recession to a strong economic recovery. Currently, Governor Wilson is of counsel at Bingham & McCutcheon LLP. For the real estate crowd here, Governor Wilson is a director of the Irvine Company. Tad Toby and Governor Wilson go back many years as they have been engaged in political and philanthropic causes together. We are grateful that he is here with us this evening on Tad's behalf. Governor Wilson.
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted and honored to be here this evening. First of all, I congratulate SPIRE. For an organization that is 5 years old, I must say it is impressive. The enthusiasm, or what in the Marine Corps we used to call esprit de corps, is not just visible, but you can feel it, and with very good reason. Now, I understand that my appearance at a podium with all but the most sheltered audiences is likely to inspire fear and people reaching for their pocketbooks, fear that they are about to be aggressively solicited to give money. I want you to relax. Tonight, I am here to join with you in giving deserved praise, not just recognition, but really the kind of recognition that two leaders of this industry deserve and that deserve celebration. As it happens, I have known both of tonight's awardees for many, many years. And for me, it has meant prized friendships, also distinct financial benefits. For them, it has meant great cost. I hope they don't regard it as a rare bad investment. Not exactly philanthropy, but perhaps support of good government. In any case, tonight I am here to congratulate old friends, Bob Lowe, and in absentia, Tad Taube, whom it is my privilege to represent tonight. I think this organization is extraordinary. There is no single course at Stanford that leads you to a degree that allows you to join this remarkable organization. Rather, real property has become, as it has been through history, the source, the most basic source of wealth, protected by law that imposes both duties and rights. But it is the multidisciplinary approach that is taken to an industry that has in fact touched so many others, that is recognized in the creation and the good work of SPIRE. Tonight, as you heard from Andy, Tad is not with us because he is in Poland. And I can only tell you that several things that I said, and by the way, I think that is a magnificent video. It really catches Tad Taube. So I don't have to tell you that he is a superb negotiator, businessman with a keen sense of the marketplace. He is, as I said, a man who will be remembered as someone who is passionate about good deals and good causes. But the philanthropy of both of these men, in addition to their acumen in their industry, is worthy of special note. And once again, I have experienced personally their generosity to very good causes in both cases. In the case of Tad, I remarked on it in the video. This is a man who has a passionate belief in education because he recognizes that you can come to this country and you can, with the kind of education that was given him, not only achieve wealth, but achieve with it the power to affect the good prospects of others less fortunate. Education has, through all the history of this country, been the great ladder of upward mobility so that people could reach their full potential. And George Shultz said something, as he often does, very worthwhile in that video. He said that Tad's philanthropy is the kind that requires of him that he give not simply money, but give of himself personally by involvement in the cause that he is supporting. That has been my experience with him for many, many years. I think we first met, years and years ago. We got to know each other well at Hoover. And it is true, this is a man who is outspoken. He is not someone who shrinks from expressing his opinion. I happen to share his opinions, and I will say this. He has a great generosity of spirit, as it was observed in the video when he said, have fun. People, the woman who said he loves people, well, he does, but not as some sort of indiscriminate en masse entity. He identifies with individuals, but he identifies with those that are deserving of an opportunity to be all that they can be. And that is something to love the man for. And he understands that freedom is not free. His parents made the wise decision to bring him here when he was, I think, 7 years old. Thank God they did. Think how they have enriched all of us who have been privileged to know him. And think how his good fortune was not something that he enjoyed in a cocoon. He was touched by the real world and he wanted to change it for individuals. I love the comment that was made. When he was going to give money, he wanted to know what it was for, how it was to be spent. Good man. But he gave, and gave generously, as has Bob Lowe. However different they may be, they have a great deal in common, and a great deal that inspires my gratitude as a citizen and as a friend. So I will simply say I am honored to be here tonight. Tad is in Poland, producing a wonderful museum that will tell the story of the historic Jewish culture in Poland, and with it, a lesson that freedom isn't free, and that in fact, those who love it must be prepared to defend it, because it can be very fragile. Anyway, Tad, welcome to the ranks of not only those who give money, but who involve themselves in how it's spent. That's the best kind of philanthropy. I am honored to be here tonight to accept the award on his behalf, and I congratulate both of my friends. Thank you for the honor.
As a descendant of Polish Jews myself, I am very grateful to Tad Toby and everything he has done. I'm also grateful for Governor Wilson joining us this evening, spending his time and sharing his words with us. And I'm very happy to present to him, on behalf of SPIRE, this plaque honoring Tad Toby as an inductee for 2014 into the Stanford Real Estate Hall of Fame. Thank you. I did want to highlight one other aspect of our production this evening before we move on, and that is if you listen very intently over the healthy chatter in the room, you would have heard throughout the evening a song being played, which is actually a newly minted theme song, hot off the presses and fresh this year. We have actually decided this year to continue to extend the brand and the identity of SPIRE by composing a theme song for the organization. If you listen carefully at the opening and at the closing of this next video, you'll be able to hear that theme song repeated throughout the video for the honoree within Bob Lowe's video as it was within Tad's. I do want to give a quick backstory regarding that production piece because it's important on a couple of levels. One is we've talked about the importance of mentorship and student outreach in supporting students at Stanford. We also believe as an organization in supporting the arts at Stanford. There's a young gentleman who is a recent graduate of the university by the name of Kai Kite. You'll see a page dedicated to him in your program, who was the composer of that piece. We commissioned him to produce that piece for us, for the organization, to help, as I said, us to establish a brand identity and to continue to define what the organization stands for. And we're very, very grateful as well to Bill Tooley, who is here tonight, as well as to Mark Berger, who are the patrons who have underwritten the production of that audio piece. And we're very, very grateful for their support and very grateful for Kai for the wonderful music that he's produced and paying honor to our organization. You will now have the great opportunity to see the video tribute to our second honoree. It's really a treat for me to be able to honor not only Bob Lowe, but the entire Lowe family. Bob's sons, Mike and Rob, have been very heavily involved in our organization from the very beginning as advisors and leaders to the organization and members of our Stanford Real Estate Council. And we're very grateful for the entire family for being here, and I hope you enjoy this tribute to Bob Lowe.
On the golf course and in life, you see a common thread with Bob, and that is he's constantly wishing to do better.
Bob is a great listener, but he will have no problem telling you what he thinks after he's listened to everybody's comments.
The three things that matter most to him in life: his family, his company, and his community.
Bob's a guy who's quiet in his demeanor. He's measured. His brain is working at 100 miles an hour all the time.
I don't think I've ever heard him swear. He might have said gee whiz once or something, or drat, perhaps.
If you want to get the most out of your resources, you want to get the job well done, the first call you'd make is to Bob Lowe.
One of the key reasons for my dad's success in life, and particularly in business, has been his unflappability.
Well, he's not always unflappable, I can say that for sure.
One of the important things about going to Stanford and getting my MBA there was the quality of your peers. What I learned from my peers there has been important to me from the day I left. When I was at Stanford, I got thinking about what I wanted to do with my life, and I was attracted to real estate for several reasons. One, my dad was in the business as a mortgage lender, mortgage banker. But perhaps more important, I decided I wanted to deal in a career that I was working with a tangible product, something that you could work on and it would be there after you're done working on it, and you could add some creativity to it.
We have over $5 billion of assets under management now. It includes hospitality assets for about half of that, office assets for roughly a third, and then a growing amount of multifamily and retail.
There's a reserve in Indian Wells, California, a 450-acre project that my partners and I had the good fortune of developing about 15 years ago. It was really fun because we started out with a parcel in the desert that most people couldn't envision ever being a residential community. And it came to fruition as a really terrific private golf course with 240 wonderful home sites and now 250 terrific members. Terranea was one of the more recent projects we've completed. And I remember walking the 100 acres that were really in a disastrous condition as we were buying it, and talking with Rob and Mike and saying, you know, you don't get an opportunity many times in a lifetime to take 100 acres sitting on this point in the Pacific in the middle of 20 million people. We just can't miss this one up. We got to do it right.
The bank went under and stopped funding on his construction loan, and so then he scrambled to hold it together, find other financing, get it completed, which it was completed on time and on budget.
I had the opportunity to appoint an independent director, and Bob Lowe joined us in the early 90s. Thanks to Bob Lowe, we grew from $400 million revenue business with a staff of about 4,000 to today 45,000 employees doing $8 billion of revenue.
We acquired the Howard Hughes Center, a massive development, master planned project. If you drive down the 405 today, you will see how Lowe Enterprises, and Bob particularly, and his team were involved in the master planning of that project, were involved in the construction of the high-rise buildings throughout the project.
Not an iconic project, but one that is very, very important to me is our very first project. When we started our company in 1972, we had the opportunity to acquire 6 or 7 acres in downtown Aspen, Colorado. And we developed the Gantt, a 143-unit condominium project that we still operate today on behalf of the owners.
He sold those units in the early days for like $100,000. Today those units, I'm told, sell for $1 million to $4 million each.
My big focus right now is the Los Angeles Metropolitan YMCA that I've had the honor to be on the board for some 20 years. I'm chairing an effort to raise another $30 million in new endowment for the YMCA of Metropolitan Los Angeles that would be strictly to support our efforts in the urban communities.
Bob was the chair of the board at Claremont McKenna College in the late 90s, early 2000s, and during that time we went through a presidential transition. And like most colleges and universities, those were very risky times for the organization. Bob was the calm captain of the ship in a storm through that period of time. And if it wasn't for Bob's leadership, it would have been a much rockier transition.
I think the thing that Bob is most proud of, actually, is not his accomplishments, not his history as an Eagle Scout, but the fact that he's been able to get each of his grandkids on the floor of Congress to see a vote take place, to see how government works. That's how Bob works. That's how he thinks.
It's amazing to me to watch his reach politically, whether it's in Washington, D.C., with the senators, the congressmen, or whether it's the state of California, an elected official. He really cares.
We started going to the Gantt when I was about 5 years old on family vacation. There were a lot of people that would like to go skinny dipping in those days. And so I remember that, him feeling like he was, responsible for the property, even though we were there on vacation with the family. He would get up in the middle of the night, seemed like just about every night, and have to throw the skinny dippers out of the hot tub.
He drove me to an office building where he was going to pick up a paper that was being typed that he had written for college. And he drove about 1 block in the middle of Glendale and stopped and pulled out the ring. He had actually gone to pick up the ring, and he couldn't wait any longer than a block. So it was a very unromantic place where he asked me to marry him.
My brother and I were young, and we were on a family vacation in Hawaii, and the phone rang, and he disappeared for 5 minutes, came back and reported our multi-million-dollar condominium project in Palm Desert had burned to the ground. And his response was, "Well, boys, time for a Mai Tai."
Bob and I agreed that it would be much better for us to hire each other's sons in our companies as interns. We did this, and my son Rick came to work at Lowe, and I hired later on Rob and Mike. Now, as it turns out, 30 plus years later, Rick is still here at Lowe, and Mike and Rob are co-presidents at Lowe. So I don't know whether Bob could foresee this or whether this is just something that would have happened.
Bob's success, in my estimation, his legacy, if you will, is that he always has been committed to creating value, tangible, measurable value.
I think he'd like to be remembered as someone who was kind and industrious. He'd like to feel that people felt he had made a difference.
What greater legacy than to have 2 of your own children now being so intimately involved in not only the present but the future of the company. Bob's legacy is also throughout Southern California and elsewhere. Bob was chairman of the Real Estate Roundtable, the singularly most important real estate organization.
I would like for people to remember me as someone who did what I said I was going to do, for someone that dealt with people around him in a fair way, and number one, a person that did put his family first. And you look back, if you didn't spend the time to nurture and love your family, everything else wouldn't be important. And that's more clear to me today than ever before.
It is with pleasure that I invite to the podium Bob Lowe's two sons, Robert and Michael Lowe. Rob Lowe, a Stanford graduate, is co-president of Lowe Enterprises and chief executive officer of Lowe Hospitality Group. Rob oversees more than 35 independent luxury and upscale hotels and resorts and over 9,000 rooms under management. He oversees Lowe destination development with well over $3 billion in projects over the last decade. Mike Lowe, also a Stanford graduate, is co-president and chief investment officer of Lowe Enterprises. Mike coordinates the firm's national investment activities and is responsible for the firm's national office, industrial, retail, and multifamily activities, including development, acquisition, asset management, leasing, construction, and property management. We are thrilled to have Bob's two sons here to introduce their father, Rob and Mike.
So this week I had to make a quick trip to Hong Kong to visit a partner in one of our hotel properties. And so I returned from Hong Kong. I woke up in Hong Kong this morning. And so you're going to have, the bad news is you're going to have to watch to see if I can coherently communicate for the next 2 minutes. The good news about the story is, and the Lowe men will appreciate this because we all like a good meal, I have had 7 legitimate meals today. Much to the horror of my wonderful wife, Suzanne. But really, the videos today have been so fantastic, and that one, I think, so well portrays our father that I don't really have a lot to add. So maybe I'll just offer a couple points of clarification. You would notice that I talked about my dad's unflappability, where my mom contradicted that. But I did qualify on my terms that it was at work. And then you heard Fred talk about Bob never swearing. And then you heard my dad talk about the importance of family, the importance of treating people right. And I think if you kind of get the whole gist of that video, you really get the sense that my dad is really a person of extreme responsibility and wants to get everything just right. So in the office, it's all about being a leader who is calm, cool, collected, very step-by-step oriented and can kind of get through anything by a process. Well, in family life, sometimes all of those characteristics collide. And it seemed to happen most often when we were going on family vacations. My mom and my dad would work very hard to get everything perfectly organized. But my dad, he had all these frustrations at work that he had to bottle up, and he had sort of set them aside, and they were being reserved for the poor person in the travel industry that somehow got in the way of our perfect vacation. I remember one particular time, I think we were in the Denver airport, and our flight had been canceled for our connection for no particular reason. And you know, other people seemed to be getting reconnected. I think we were going to Aspen at the time, but you know, there was nothing for us. And so the perception that we were being treated unfairly, and I remember that no swear law being broken, and it wasn't a tirade. It was simply one word, and the way he said it, it set Mike and I just running behind the columns. But I think really the moral of the story, and I think maybe the example that Fred had in the video maybe is most telling, is the leadership that he provides us at Lowe Enterprises and what he teaches us all through that process of being calm and collected and can really take on the world successfully. During that horrible recession when Terranea, we had the bank failing and people running for the hills in all directions, and Bob just calmly walked us through a process that took us from what we thought was certain failure to probably the greatest success that our company has had. And it's that sort of perfection in the office, but then the occasional vulnerability in the family life, showing that he does really have that emotion and that love for us that really is so meaningful, and has made him, I think, the perfect father for Mike and I. So with that, I can't imagine a better person to be receiving this honor tonight, and I'll turn it over to Mike, and I'm sure he'll share a couple stories.
For a second there, I thought it might turn into a roast. We could get the crowd going and get some real stories. First of all, I want to just say that I feel a little bad for you because Governor Wilson and then Rob and Mike. He truly is a visionary entrepreneur in the real estate business, and that was talked a little bit about by Chad in the video. He's not, I wouldn't call him the visionary of the family. I think Mom gets that award. But he has really approached our family with his own, unique style, as Rob alluded to, where on the one hand, he's a dedicated and really loving parent that may be not easy to see in the day-to-day work life for those of you who have really just seen that side of him. But at the same time, he does it with a heavy dose of executive skill applications. I mean, it's seeing him at work in the family is not actually that different from the office. He's infamous for his long legal yellow pad around the office, and he's taught us the lesson, many of us, to never come to a meeting without an agenda of your own. And when it comes to our meeting on New Year's Day, when we're talking resolutions, out comes the yellow pad with several different categories of New Year's resolutions. And we all sit there with our, crayon lists and compare ourselves to what he has. And we say, well, why don't you go first? And that's kind of how meetings happen at Lowe Enterprises. He's approached his community activities a lot like his business. He's intensely focused when needed, but at the same time, he's able to relax and enjoy his colleagues when the time is right. I can remember him coming into my room in high school while I was doing homework. He said, Mike, I need your help. I've got to deliver a speech tomorrow in rap music style. And for those of you who know Bob well, my task was hopeless. But like he always does, he stood there and took the advice I tried to give him and and went back the next day and delivered his rap to his colleagues. And when I asked him how it went, he said, "Not very well, but I got through it." And kind of like what Rob said, that's really been the way he's led his life. Good times, tough times, he finds a way to get himself through it to better times. He's also been on the end of having some misbehaving kids in his life. But it's hard to imagine a more dedicated and compassionate dad. I can recall his reaction to one of his sons getting into trouble at summer school and then proceeding to listen to him read the riot act over the phone to the school administrator as she was going like this with the phone when it was his own son that was misbehaving, just because he thought she was being too punitive. So he really does have a commitment to his family above and beyond anything else. Rob and I, as his sons, respect him as a close advisor in life, trust him. He always has our best interests in mind. It's amazing to see what he's doing right now, transitioning the leadership of the company to the next generation of leaders, and he's doing it in a way that is really focused on the benefiting us and our future and well-being and not his. And again, it's the way we've seen him act throughout his life, and it's really awe-inspiring to see him, the way he's handling that right now. And he's going to be handling it for another several years, by the way. And as dads, businessmen, and I should say maybe aspiring community leaders, the two of us have been blessed with the opportunity to learn from the best. That hot tub was a great lesson in and of itself, with him taking leadership in uncomfortable situations, but as he said in the video, doing the right thing, doing what you'll say you'll do, and always put family first. And Chad talked about his 3 pillars early, and those have really been 3 key pillars for our dad. So speaking of family first, with all 6 of his core family members, myself, Rob, our wives, Christy and Suzanne, Mom, all of us have Stanford degrees. And so Stanford has clearly played a key role in our life and in our family. And so I know he's particularly pleased to receive this great honor, especially since he's joining the Stanford Hall of Fame before Andrew Luck. So very impressed. And that is something that you can always put high on your accomplishments. So on behalf of the 2 of us and Christy and Suzanne and Mom, we say congratulations. We love you. Thank you.
Well, I guess it's time for another Mai Tai. Rob and Mike, I really obviously appreciate your kind and thoughtful remarks. Among other things, you're making it, as I kind of very gradually go into retirement, you're making it very easy and very enjoyable. What a fun evening. I am certainly having a good time. I hope you all are too. I'm particularly pleased to share this recognition with Tad Taube. You know, I had the good fortune of being born in this country. I have special admiration for people that were not born in this country but achieved the American dream. I'd like to thank the video participants. I was very fortunate that we had a very good editor. I'm pleased, Bill and Buzz, that you're here to share this evening with me. I remember sharing this evening with you just a year ago. In thinking about this evening, 2 concepts came into focus to me. First was I clearly have achieved the senior age category. I mean, have you ever heard of a young person being invited into a Hall of Fame anywhere? No, there are always senior people and many times has-beens. I will accept the first category, but I'm not ready for the second one yet. Second and most significant to me is the importance of friends and partners. Most of you here this evening are longtime friends, many for a half a century, some for even longer than that. As friends, you have motivated me, you have made my life more enjoyable, you've made me laugh, you have been an important part of my life together with Beth. You have supported our sons and now our grandsons. We have traveled together. We have benefited together from our YPO experiences and now the masterminds. We have argued politics. We have skied together. We have traded dollars on golf courses. And we have cheered together our kids on all kinds of sporting teams. I cannot imagine what life would be like without supportive, understanding, caring friends. Let's talk about partners. Many of you here this evening are both friends and partners. As I was a young man just starting my career, it became very clear to me that selecting high-quality partners was really, really critical. I recognized early on that I was motivated to accomplish more than I could do by myself on my own. I was motivated to build more projects, to complete more and better investments, to manage a greater variety of assets, and to do more for my community. For me, this would have only been possible without talented and loyal partners. We have built Lowe Enterprises around these talented and loyal partners. Our bankers and financial partners have enabled us to do much more than we could have done without them. Our lawyers and advisors have made things work and usually kept us out of trouble. Our agents in the real estate industry have represented us well. My partners in Lowe Enterprises, what can I say about them? Some of them have been by my side for most of the 42 years, some even longer. Skip Bearhorst is here from Aspen, Colorado. He was my partner way back in 1967. Bob Weekly is here. He was my partner starting in 1969. All of my partners, many of whom are here tonight, have contributed so much to our business. They have made me so fortunate and so proud. My partners in the community, many of them are here tonight. At Stanford University, at Claremont McKenna College, and the Lowe Institute of Political Economy. I want to pause here for a moment, but we're honored this evening, I'm honored this evening, to have the sitting president of Claremont McKenna College and his two predecessors. So we have the leaders of Claremont McKenna College for just about the last 50 years here tonight, and I thank you for being here. I've had partners in my commitment to the YMCA of Metropolitan Los Angeles, as you saw in the video, at my church, and so many other projects that I've been inclined to take on. All of these things have made my life more worthwhile. And then there are Rob and Mike, my partners now in building Lowe Enterprises for the next generation. I'm actually enjoying beginning to work for them. I'm fortunate to have great relationships with Suzanne and Christy and my 6 terrific grandchildren. Of course, there's Beth. She's my most important and closest partner. You have been beside me at every business turn and at every hurdle that we had to get over, and there's been more than a few. We have shared our commitment together to the community, particularly focused on education and kids in need. We love our family. We've had a great 52 years together. With that, I again thank you all for being here. You've made this a really, really enjoyable evening for me. Enjoy the rest of it for yourself. Thank you.
Bob, if you could join me back up here. We have this, I know you're in a hurry to get away.
You have a Mai Tai?
Yeah, we have a Mai Tai. We do have a glass of water here for you instead. But this plaque, again, commemorates your induction in the Stanford Real Estate Hall of Fame, and I'm very, very pleased to present it to you tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So with a little bit of help to wrap up this evening's presentations, we do have an additional honor to present to our inductees. Those of you who joined us last year know that if you join the Stanford Real Estate Hall of Fame, you literally get a seat at the table. These chairs are handmade in China at the same factory that produced the handmade chairs that are in the Stanford Institute at Peking University, which we had the opportunity as an organization to tour 3 summers ago now, when we went on an excursion to China. It was a great experience for me and for those of us who attended, and so we're very happy to present this honor and this commemorative chair to each of our honorees. In addition, it's worth noting that the supervisor, Don Kanabe, has a proclamation that has been issued by the County of Los Angeles to honor both of our distinguished inductees this evening. We're very pleased for him attending the event and producing those proclamations to honor our distinguished guests this evening. We will take some moments after the end of the presentation to get some photos up here with honorees and family. I appreciate you joining us on stage at the end for that. And I just want to conclude this evening by saying again how pleased I am and how honored I am to be a part of this organization, and how honored I am to be working with a phenomenal team. I am happy to be one of us, meaning those of us that are the leadership of SPIRE, and I'd like to recognize the individuals who put in the hard work every day running the organization and give me the opportunity to stand up here and look good. And that is Andy Walburger, whom you've met earlier this evening, the Executive Director of SPIRE. Jennifer Heafy, who is our Manager of Alumni Events and Programming. And Stephanie Culler, who is our Member Services Coordinator. Without the 3 of them, none of this happens. And finally, continuing with this evening's theme of community, giving back, and the sense of inclusiveness. there's an opportunity for inclusion for all of you in this room. It's a little known secret that within the bylaws of the Stanford Alumni Association, that alumni organizations of the university can extend membership to their organization up to 10% to individuals who are not alumni of the university. So the invitation that I extend to all of you is that you can become one of us. We would be very pleased to have you. There will be handouts that will be providing cards on your way out of the building that give you information about how you can become part of SPIRE and how you can be one of us. And as I outlined those very, very important criteria for inclusion and membership, I would be very happy if any one of you that joins the organization and becomes one of us ever wants to sit down and honor me by having a drink with me. I'm here for that drink. So with that, I bid you cheers and a very good evening. Good night. Thank you.